Relay, we're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Former WBC lightweight champion turned super featherweight contender Delphine Persoon of Belgium posted this to her Instagram account. It reads, "Hello everyone. The tickets for the upcoming Boxer Gala in Terute on the 28th of May 2023 are flying out the door. Who wants to see me boxing again? Now is the time. We're already 38 years old. If you want tickets, be quick at the VVK addresses, or the people who know me can send a private message." This upcoming fight between Delphine Persoon and South Korea's own Bo Mi Re Shin will crown the next WBC interim champion and mandatory challenger to reigning undisputed super featherweight champion Alicia Baumgartner. And I have to tell you that Delphine Persoon, she's in for a fight. Believe you me, she is. Bo Mi Re Shin sports a professional record of 15 wins with 1 loss, 3 draws, 8 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 19 professional contests. 19 professional bouts. This ain't no squirrely amateur. This is a fighter who's been around the block.
A fighter who saw action 4 times last year.
And has already seen action at least once this year, earlier this year, in February.
A fighter who's won 4 of her last 6 contests by way of knockout or technical knockout.
And a fighter who in many ways is cut from the same cloth as Delphine Persoon, but happens to be 10 years younger than Delphine Persoon. That's right. Bo Mi Re Shin, she's no cerebral fighter. She's not a finesse fighting kind of fighter. She's a mid-range to inside pressure fighter, a relentless one, the same as Delphine Persoon. This battle that they're about to have in May will be a fight of attrition.
Battle of attrition.
Delphine Persoon and Bo Mi Re Shin have the same methodology. They like to wear their opponents down with relentless pressure and volume punching, the kind of fighters that sacrifice defense for offense.
Because most of the time, the girl opposite the ring can't keep them off, can't keep them out.
To the eye, both Bo Mi Re Shin and Delphine Persoon don't have the greatest form.
They ain't got the greatest textbook jab, and they don't set up their punches better than some other fighters. But what they have that some other fighters don't have is physicality. These are physically strong fighters.
What both Bo Mi Re Shin and Delphine Persoon have that some other fighters don't have is raw power, toughness, and an engine.
They can throw punches and bunches from the opening round to the final round, and in effect, wear down their opponents, even if their opponents have better form than they do at the start.
You know what they say, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And Bo Mi Re Shin is a strong finisher.
You have to wonder if at 38 years old, Delphine Persoon still has it in the tank for a fight like this, because she won't be stalking and walking down some finesse fighting kind of fighter that ain't got a lot of power. She'll be facing almost a mirror image of herself that's 10 years younger.
The aesthetic of this match, how it looks, may harken back to Delphine Persoon's fight years ago opposite the ring France's own Maiva Hamadouche, an all-out war, a brawl, a shootout.
That fight between Delphine and Maiva, that was 8 years ago.
8 years and 17, approximately 17 fights ago. 8 years and approximately 17 fights later. Does Delphine Persoon at 38 years old still have it?
It's one thing to fight a fight against an Ikram Kirwat or even an Elham Mekhaled, because they ain't the volume punchers that Delphine is. They ain't got the engine she's got.
By all accounts, Bo Mi Re Shin does, and Bo Mi Re Shin, like Delphine Persoon, she ain't coming for no fucking boxing match.
You think this broad's here to box?
She's not. She's here to wear you down and wear you out. That's Bo Mi Re Shin's methodology, which is a lot like Delphine Persoon's methodology. These are physical, rough and tumble fighters that are very difficult to keep out of the pocket because they can give a punch.
They can take a punch and they can give a punch.
On the other side of this fight is the opportunity to either challenge Alicia Baumgartner for all the marbles at super featherweight. Alicia Baumgartner, this division's undisputed champion. On the other side of this fight, there is either the chance to challenge Alicia for what she's got or fight for the vacant WBC title, provided that it becomes vacant in the near future, because the winner of this fight between Bo Mi Re Shin and Delphine will, in effect, become her mandatory challenger.
The mandatory challenger to the WBC title.
Bo Mi Re Shin provides many of the same challenges to a champion that Delphine Persoon would. She's just 10 years younger than Delphine Persoon. This is a big, strong, capable super featherweight.
The assignment for the woman opposite the ring, either Bo Mi Re Shin or Delphine Persoon, it's about the same.
I'll be honest. I wouldn't favor very many fighters to beat even today's Delphine Persoon, even today at 38 years old. I wouldn't favor most fighters at super featherweight or lightweight to beat her, to be able to handle her. But Bo Mi Re Shin,
she can push her.
Fight's going down in Delphine Persoon's neck of the woods, her native Belgium, so she has that advantage. Though at 38 years old, does she really still have it in the tank to be pushed the way she was pushed in the Maiva Hamadouche fight, to take on a fighter like herself that's going to throw punches and bunches until the other fighter can't punch?
It's a tough call, it is.
Set to go down on the 28th of May. We'll talk more about the fight as the fight date approaches. In men's heavyweight news, per a tweet from IFL TV, the WBA have confirmed they have ordered Alexander Usyk to fight Daniel Dubois, with teams given 30 days to negotiate a deal, or the fight will go to purse bids. Can Daniel dethrone the unbeaten unified champion?
No.
If you're Frank Warren, you want to make a deal with these guys, and you want to do it in a jiffy. You don't actually want this thing going to purse bid, because if it does, that opens the door for Matchroom or some other promotional outfit to swoop in with all their money and make this fight a lot more expensive to put on. If you intend to keep the rights to the fight,
You're going to have to pay to play.
you're going to have to. If these guys don't reach a deal within the next 30 days, and they might not, that opens the door for Matchroom, or maybe the Saudis, or the Saudis through Matchroom, to swoop in with all that oil money and take this fight from Frank Warren.
If Matchroom were to, in theory, win the rights to the fight, it would obviously be shown on their platform. It would obviously be shown on DAZN. If the Saudis win the rights to the fight, they're going to auction off the fight.
Auction off the fight to the highest bidder. That could be DAZN. That could be Sky Sports.
They're real big on poaching other people's fights and poaching other people's fighters these days.
You have to figure that Frank Warren not being able to get the Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk undisputed title fight over the line, that's one less heavyweight contest that he got to put on. If he were to lose the rights to this fight,
That's one more.
he's invested a lot of money, a lot of time and money in the career of Daniel Dubois, who, let's be honest, most people aren't favoring him to beat Alexander Usyk, but at minimum, he wants to be able to put on the show.
Yeah.
At minimum, he wants to be able to put on the fight if he were to lose the rights to it.
Then you'll go somewhere else, somebody else's platform gets slapped around over there, and Frank's out of the deal.
Veteran boxing scribe Dake Jonovan states, told that Daniel Dubois' medical info was submitted to the WBA and it's been fully verified, which clears him to next challenge unified heavyweight titleist Alexander Usyk. Assuming they can reach a deal, the WBA has formally ordered negotiations for the title consolidation bout. For those not already aware, Daniel Dubois is the WBA's regular champion and Alexander is their full champion in the heavyweight division. The WBA title consolidation effort is still ongoing. Daniel Dubois is one of a few remaining WBA regular champions. There's Daniel at heavyweight, David Morrell at super middleweight, and Gervonta Davis down there at lightweight.
He's been a WBA's regular champion since 2019.
He's had that baby belt for a very long time, and that baby belt, that secondary title, services as little more than a segue to fight for the full title. But as you can imagine, Gervonta Davis has never really been interested in fighting for that version of the title. Not at lightweight, not when Lomachenko had it, not when Teofimo Lopez had it, or George Kambosos after him, or Devin Haney. He's not interested in fighting for the full version of that title, but Daniel Dubois is. He is up there at heavyweight. He is the WBA's regular champion, and he's using that status to challenge Alexander Usyk. WBA's ordering these fights as a means to phase out all of those regular titles so that they can limit the number of belts and the number of champions they have at a given weight to just one per division, one per weight class, and it's about time.
Took him long enough.
That process is still ongoing. Daniel Dubois means to challenge Alexander Usyk in a fight that most people don't think he can win. Most people don't think he's ready for. I don't think a more glaring example than the Kevin Lorena fight.
Kevin Lorena, like Alexander Usyk, is a cruiserweight that moved up in weight. He also happens to be a southpaw, like Usyk is a southpaw, but Kevin Lorena is no Alexander Usyk.
Not by any stretch of the imagination. And if you saw that Daniel Dubois versus Kevin Lorena fight, you saw Daniel Dubois hit the deck more than once, more than twice.
I think it was 3 times.
Eventually gathered himself and scored a referee stoppage, a technical knockout, rather dubious one.
Daniel Dubois to Daniel Dubious.
Seems like as soon as Daniel gathered his bearings, landed some meaningful punches, and got the guy in a bit of trouble. The referee was in a hurry to wave this thing off, stop this thing, almost like he was trying to bail Daniel out.
I think given the number of knockdowns that Kevin Lorraine has scored, he should have been given more consideration by the ref.
Should have, but, should have is a four-letter word in the sport of boxing.
Yeah.
And now, Daniel Dubois, who suffered an ACL injury in that fight, he's supposed to be fighting Alexander Usyk. I don't like his chances. An ACL injury is a leg injury. And when you're fighting a guy like Alexander Usyk, who's got a great set of legs, the best legs in the heavyweight division, nobody maneuvers quite like this guy saved Tyson Fury, who already ducked him. Said it before and I'll say it again. Alexander Usyk's maneuvering capability, the fact that he's a southpaw, he can scramble Daniel Dubois' egg and shake and bake him.
Guy coming off an ACL injury, having to deal with a fighter like this with the maneuvering capability that Usyk has.
And tack on that Daniel Dubois doesn't seem to take the greatest punch.
Look what Kevin Lorraine did to that guy.
I understand that in the heavyweight division, you're always one punch away from being knocked out, but I don't think it's presumptuous to say that Daniel doesn't have it in him because better heavyweights than Daniel have tried. Better, more experienced heavyweights like Derek Chisora and Anthony Joshua.
Derek's more durable than Daniel, more devastating.
And Anthony Joshua is a cut above Daniel Dubois. He always has been. Spare me your knee-jerk reactions to this past weekend's fight.
Daniel Dubois ain't no Anthony Joshua.
I favor Usyk to beat Daniel. I favor him to retain the titles. John Fury, Big John Fury, the father of Tyson Fury, seems to think that what they're really going to do is pay Daniel to step aside to clear the way for an Usyk versus Wilder fight. That theory has yet to be...
That has yet to be verified.
It's a story only time can tell. By all accounts, it looks like Usyk's next fight is going to be Daniel until further notice, and I think he can beat him.
What he does after that, your guess is as good as mine. He's got two other mandatory challengers in the queue. He's got Filip Pergovic by way of the IBF and Joe Joyce by way of the WBO. He's going to be in action later on this month.
Little over 2 weeks' time on the 15th. Maybe Usyk fights one of them, or maybe he revisits the fight with Tyson Fury, if Tyson has finally found his balls. Finally, in men's cruiserweight news, reigning WBO cruiserweight champion Lawrence Okolie is set to take on CBS Chris Billiam-Smith in Bournemouth.
That's Chris's neck of the woods. May 27th at the Vitality Stadium in Bournemouth.
You've been following the cruiserweight division the last couple of days and the last couple of weeks. This fight's announcement will come as a surprise to no one. Both Lawrence and Chris have been trading barbs by way of social media, hinting at a fight.
This potential matchup comes to us at a time when the numbers are out from Lawrence's last fight by way of Sky Sports and Boxer, the David Light mandated title defense.
Fight that reportedly only did 33,000 live viewers on Sky Main Event last week, 59,000 including the total audience, people who watched on demand. Either way, these are incredibly poor numbers. This is why Sky puts boxer shows on so many channels, to try and inflate the numbers.
It was Joshua Buatsi who said that he crossed over from DAZN over to Sky because you can get more eyes for a fight on Sky than you can on DAZN, that nobody watches DAZN.
It doesn't look like anybody was watching this fight on Sky. Lawrence Okolie, like Joshua Buatsi, he crossed over from DAZN over to Sky.
From Matchroom over to Boxer. We've talked about that in several videos.
Little by little, that popular narrative that nobody watches DAZN, it's starting to unravel. And this fight's metrics are proof of that, because here you have Lawrence Okolie boxing on a major platform, an established one, yet in spite of that, he didn't bring in big views. He didn't bring in big numbers. Could it be that getting eyes on a fight...
It's not just what platform is showing the fight. The fight's actually got to be good.
Not underestimating the machine that is Sky Sports, and I'm not underestimating their abilities as a platform, but the misconception is that you can slap anything on Sky and people are going to watch it. People are going to eat it up. They didn't eat up that fight.
Maybe they'll like this one better, the one with Chris Billiam-Smith.
Chris, who sports a professional record of 17 wins with 1 loss, no draws, 12 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 18 professional bouts. That lone defeat came at the hands of still unbeaten Richard Riakporhe.
He's on the same side of the street as the both of these guys.
Both Chris and Lawrence, who sports an unblemished record of 19 wins with no losses, no draws, and 14 knockouts. It's often been said that Lawrence Okolie, strong puncher that he might be, he's a hard guy to watch. His style.
It's not fan-friendly. At least it hasn't been, and he has since enlisted the aid of Sugar Hill Stewart to try to implement a more crunk kind of style.
Last in action, late last month on the 25th, opposite the ring is mandatory challenger David Light in what wasn't a fun fight to watch. He's caught between styles. I can cut him some slack, but everybody else won't.
Given how Lawrence is built, his frame, that he's a very tall fighter for this weight with a lot of reach, a lot of power. Sugar Hill Stewart is a trainer for him. It makes sense.
But they're going to need a little bit more time before we get to see the fruits of their labor under the hot lights. He's not going to turn into a completely different fighter overnight, unless we forget he did have some ring rust to shake off in that David Light fight. It had been a while since he last saw action.
All the promotional issues with Matchroom trying to cross over to Boxer, he's effectively done that.
And he looks to be facing Chris Billiam-Smith in his next fight. Chris in Chris's neck of the woods. Chris has a respectable resume. 2 victories over Tommy McCarthy, Isaac Chamberlain.
I saw those fights. Those were good fights.
Highlight reel knockout over Armand. I can't pronounce that. What we do know is that Chris, he was a lot more active last year than Lawrence was. Where Lawrence only fought once, Chris fought 3 times.
Stayed sharp.
We can say that Chris Billiam-Smith does have a more fan-friendly style than Lawrence does. Perhaps that's why the fight is set to go down in Bournemouth, in Chris's neck of the woods, as opposed to Lawrence's.
I'm not trying to tell you that Chris Billiam-Smith is Julio Iglesias or anything over there.
I'm just telling you the tickets for this fight behind the name of Chris Billiam-Smith will sell better in Bournemouth, at least for this fight, than they would anywhere else. This is Chris Billiam-Smith's title shot.
You can sell that. In Bournemouth you can, whereas Lawrence, God bless him, he's never been a big ticket seller. That un-fan-friendly style might be a big part of why.
Why he's not more popular, why he's not more well-known. All this talk about Sky and DAZN as platforms, need I remind you that most of Lawrence's career, most of his fights were actually shown on Sky. I think he only fought on DAZN once or twice.
So if this guy ain't more popular, it's not because he's been fighting on DAZN.
You can't blame that platform for that. He wasn't on that platform very long. Most of his fights were actually on Sky. In spite of that, Lawrence ain't a big name, not a big name, and he's not a big ticket seller.
I mean, he's one of the bigger names at cruiserweight, yes.
But he ain't got the marquee value of a Dillian White or even a Derek Chisora. He must hope to change that with a highlight reel knockout of Chris Billiam-Smith. No ring rust or cobwebs to shake off this time.
Chris is an action fighter, an entertaining one, albeit limited.
Lawrence has to get it together for this fight because he's going to have a live one in front of him.
Look for that in late May.